Good day, everybody. How's it going today? So we are back at the Furry Ofrenda. This time, not to announce anyone's passing, but to announce a new concept and sort of behind the scenes on something we're going to do here. So I like the Furry Ofrenda. I really appreciate what they do, and something that Flera, as an organization, tries to do is present furry community. And an important part of any small town sort of paper or small town nonfiction organization that's not like trying to chase big headlines constantly is they're a very important part of those. Now, most young folks might not know what an obituary is, given social media, but usually news is shared about passings through social media these days instead of like having official obituaries and things like that. So I figured that the ofrenda here offers an exemplary opportunity to make a obituary, but also to sort of reimagine the obituary. And I didn't think it was going to go this far, but I tooled around for this for a little bit, and I think I can create something that's actually very interesting and very unique. And I think I want to share some of the behind the scenes on how the sausage is made, on how to make this sort of thing, simply because I think it'll be doing so. Just a little background here. This is the Furry Ofrenda. This is a VRChat based virtual world in which you can come to this place. It is inspired by the movie Coco, which Coco is like a coconut. Like coconuts are, if you think of the word coconut, basically it's a nut that's shaped like a cocoa, and cocoa is a word for skull in a different language. So Day of the Dead, it's inspired by like Day of the Dead, and so it's like it's technically in the long form short, it is technically a furry memorial slash graveyard of people who in the fandom who have passed on, and we've been here in some prior videos. We were here when Dragoneer passed in back in August of 2024. We came here um, uh, for Spartacus's passing, and also in other times we've been here a few times. But I think that like obits are important to share not when just like well-known or famous people in the community have passed on, but also when people. Uh, I think it's important for also for just in general when any normal person, quote unquote, normal person slash person who, you know, everyone lives life, and it's important to celebrate those lives because everyone's important to somebody. Um, so what I did is I actually, if I click here, there's different years. So if you've never been to this world before, they actually moved this board over here, which is very nice near the spawn point. But basically, these are client side things where you can change the dates from one thing to the other. This actually goes from the passing date of 1992 to um, 2014, I believe. So like the date ranges are wrong on this. I have informed the creator on this. And then how do I know this? Well, I went through this. So I went through this page and I went through and entered all of these guys, both rows, into a form. There's a total of 108 in here. I know this because I entered them all, and there's 108 lines. So basically, I'm going to show you like sort of how I got that together and things like that. There is a one person in here who passed in 1992. There's a handful that passed in 1994. 1996 though is probably where a majority come from and onwards. They're kind of backfilling some of this stuff because obviously the Ofrenda didn't exist back in the 90s. So, um, but there's like basically there's 3 pages. This one goes from like 2015 to I don't know what the end date is officially yet, but it claims 2020 and then here. So I'm at this point. There's 2 rows here, and it took me about 2 hours a row to enter this information into the form. So, but there are 3 rows on this. So if the rows are the same size, which they may or may not be, it would take like 2 hours a row. It's going to take 6 hours ish to do that one. and then for the top one it's also 3 rows, but I think it might be more dense, so probably 2 hours a row. So how I do it is I'm basically going off, starting off here, going uh, counterclockwise all the way around until I eventually get to the last one and entering it into the form. So what's the output of this going to be? So I'm going to share really quickly the result of the first page, and sort of do a little behind the scenes on it. So here we have Dynamic Memorial 2022. Now currently I have it. I'm going to move the date of publication back to the date under which we are. I'm going to move it back to January 1st, 2014, so that people can find it in the archive. That's the first thing of the year. And then every year going forward, I'll make one of these dynamic memorials. I'll put my name off of it. I'll talk with the person of the Furry Ofrenda if we can make an account on their behest, or if they want to create an account for the Furry Family Ofrenda so that I can publish it under their name. Things like that. Basically, and also the comment section is going to be shut down for these. We usually welcome comments on Flera. It's a very important portion of Web 2.0. And like I think conversations are important to have open in most parts, but the comment section in Flera can get a bit saucy. So the idea would be to lock the comment section down for these. If somebody wanted to share their thoughts about any person listed on these things, they could uh, basically share this on the social media site through their profile, and then allow people to comment or not comment as they see fit. For one, that will help promote Flera in that people will discuss this outside the site. And number two, I think it's respectful to the site itself and what its purpose is. It's not to, like, if there's one person in here that had done something very controversial in their life, to not bog down everyone else's name because there's one bad name amongst them, things like that. So the idea here, though, is like this is a dynamic thing from things, and so this is for 2024, 2014. So anyone who passed away during 2014, you're going to notice some interesting nuances on the data here. You're going to see a bunch of X's in the date of birth, or on days and the day of passing. We'll go over that when we go over the form. But basically, the idea is like we have descriptions and we have aliases, if there are any other aliases listed, separated by semicolons. They're the name that usually is more pronounced here, and then the persona species if it's available. If it's not, it's unknown. Location if it's available. If it's not, it's unknown. And then a description of that's basically the majority of the items on the tomb, the quote unquote tombstone. So basically, the idea here is that. So how did I get it to do 2014? Now the cool part about this, and this is the thing, it's like, oh, you're gonna have to go in and update all these things. No, it's dynamic. So if somebody comes into the Ofrenda and enters a 2014, this says, hey, I know this other furry that passed in 2014, and they go to the Ofrenda and the Ofrenda adds it to the thing, like and I add it to the form, it'll automatically post on this page. It'll automatically and dynamically do that. So I don't have to, like, all I have to do is worry about the entry of it the first time, but then I don't have to like go to each page and like update all that stuff. So it will require a lot of communication with the Ofrenda folks, and I don't want to impose on them. And I'm sure they're a pretty busy person, and I'm sure this project of theirs has taken up a lot of their time. So um, so unfortunately, and it's like, well, can you ask them for the database of this? And it's like they don't have one. They actually told me that they basically they just put it in Unity, and like they take the information from somebody and they put it into Unity. And so like it's not available in a spreadsheet format, so I have to do that. So in order to do that, I have this thing called a form. I'm not sharing the top of the form because um, it has my email address. So I basically go through down here. You enter the name. Star means it's must to do. There's aliases. the fursona species, the location, the date of birth, and here and then the subcategory stuff. It kind of here describes like the little like thing. So for name, there's no like real rules. Options, aliases, separate the comma. Real name, if the real world name and fursona name, avoid using first name or avoid. I I guess I have to edit this, so I can do that on that thing over there, and it basically says avoid using. I got to expand on that because obviously I didn't finish my sentence. Instead of using first fursona surname, format in the name. So basically, if it says if somebody has a fursona name of Foxy, and then under alias it says Robert Smith, I would rather have the name say Robert Foxy Smith, if it's available. Obviously, it's sort of a discretionary thing. You would want to like if somebody has a fursona like for myself, Tantrum McNally, and if I passed on, which I will do someday, um, if I have my name is Tantru Sunnius McNally, I actually have like a full three name fursona name. I couldn't say John Tantru McNally, Tantru Sunnius McNally, you know, Smith. Like that's clunky. So in that case, like having my real world name as an alias would fit, and J alias is John Smith. Fursona's name is Tantru McNally. So if it's more than just one name, this is more for like if there's one name. Um, we can see if there's an example here um, with the quotes. So Silver Scrapper 26 Wolf, for example, was a person who um, had Silver Wolf under their alias and had Scrapper 26 as their persona name. I combine those two because it makes to me more sense. Um, so that's sort of like the thing. Obviously, these are guidelines. They're not hard rules. If somebody enters something and they don't enter it quite right, that's fine. Um, so the idea behind it too is like, as far as, and this goes into database management, is my idea would be is that the person who runs the ofrenda, I would pass this on to them. Um, in fact, like I wouldn't pass this on to them. I would have it so that, like, here's a second form that they would have regular folks enter stuff into, and maybe have one additional like entry field of source, like so basically the source of where they how they know that person had passed, and just so we can double check on it, right? And then like have somebody so basically, and then have somebody take a secondary form and then enter the thing that the person entered in the first form into the secondary form, and then clean it up and do whatever you want with it so that the official one so there's sort of like a and that way if someone else is also trolling, like if you have the form pretty open to the world and somebody starts like trolling a bunch of data and stuff like that, that is like unfounded or dumb or something like that, someone gets a hold of the link and they start spamming things, it protects the main database from spam, and then basically so you have that sort of degree of separation there. Um, so what about the so I'm going to go over a little bit of the rules here as I'm going through. If available, put unknown. Separate different species with commas. So some people adapt different personas in their life. So, and this is where the whole like making some rules for exceptions. Most people are going to have one persona species, usually the latest one they had before their passing, but some people are known for having, multi forms. So basically, separating it out with semicolons. Then we have location, unknown. If it has a list of last places, put it into the longer description field. In other words, I'm saying like if they like some of the tombstones when I was going through the first page had a thing where they were putting in locations, and then like in the location section they were saying previously from, previously from. There was one military furry who basically had like three or four locations, and there was one that was listed and then it said previously from, previously from, previously from. And what I did with that is I said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say where was their last location, enter that into the location field, and then take the rest of it and put it into the larger description field saying they were also from They also you know, were from here, here, and here in the main description thing. So that way it keeps the main location date a little bit more clean. So if someone wants to, it'll keep it cleaner at a quick glance. Then we have date of birth. So I use, and this is very important for database management and sorting, I use the format of year, 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 month, month, day, day. Because if you ever done have you ever done data management slash folder management, if you want to sort, like say you have a folder somewhere and you're entering a bunch of dates, like week ending dates or like daily dates for like different files that you're working on, putting it in the year, 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 month, month, day, day format makes it so that you can actually sort your folders and see it from top to bottom without like and actually having it go like, well, this is from January of 1990, right? Because 1990 is going to be the thing first, January is going to be the second thing, and then the day that it is going to be the third thing. So basically you go from the most expansive to the most granular when you're trying to do sorting. So that's why we put this into this format. I added an additional sort of flavor here because information in here is a little incomplete in some aspects. You're going to have people you don't know their birth date, but you know the day they died. You're going to know what year they died, but not necessarily what day and what things. Now, a year of death, I think, is required and is usually loose enough. I have not run into a single thing yet in the Ofrenda that does not have a year of death. And I don't think the Ofrenda would work if they didn't have a year of death because you got to know what page to put it on. So that is the only thing that is guaranteed in these dates is the year of death. You can have somebody who I don't know when they were born, I don't know what day or month they died, but I know they died in like 2012, right? So I go over different examples here. For the date of birth, I go over like what is there like what if I don't have the year but I have the day and month? This is what you'd put in. So for May 20th, but I don't know what year they were born, XXXX 520. For date of passing, what if I have the year but nothing else? You're like, oh, they died in. Actually, I got to fix that because if it's May of that, then it's 05. Again, like I need to like clean this up a little bit. The cool thing is like, I'm not gonna go over here because I don't know what is on the screen currently. If it has any personal identifying information, but like I can just go in here and edit these things, and it doesn't impact what data is entered. So Google did a really good job with these forms. I've never tried to edit one after editing, but I did that here. Description: put none if there's nothing here. There are some quote unquote tombstones that have nothing, and so basically I just enter this stuff into this form, and it's actually not that difficult. It's pretty quick actually. And then basically when I submit it, it will submit it to the form and it'll add it to the form. And then when it adds it to the form, I can do that. Now, let me actually what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to change to the main screen. I'm going to check over here to make sure that yeah, it's pretty clean. There's no identifying information here. So let me go back to here. Um, so I can actually edit this from here. So avoid using if the real world name and if real world name and persona name avoid use instead of alias. Do it live. So like basically that's describing a little bit better. An exception is if the real world name already contains a middle name. Persona name has okay, and then I can like go to here, that's fine. I go here, that's fine. May 20th, that's fine. So we can say in 2000, but and day a month. Yeah. So I copied the thing from up there, but I didn't fix it the whole way. I did kind of have that in there, and that's fine. So then I can click the publish button, and it'll actually fix those on that form. I won't do that now, but you can see the responses up here in 108. Now I've modified this a little bit, so I can view this in Sheets. So I've you I've added additional tabs here. So it is 19. So there isn't any 1990 thing. So there's one guy from 1992, and that's why I said the date range on the Ofrenda is incorrect. I don't even think they realized that they had it in 1992 in here. Which is why it's like having an extra set of eyes on this and having it in this kind of database format is actually very useful. So this is from the first page. This is actually going to expand as I start entering more information from the second page. But like basically all 108 people from the first page are in here. What's going to end up happening is I've learned this cool little trick from a thing I shared on social media, like a little quick tutorial, and it made it dynamic, which is so cool. So basically, and which makes it really cool. So basically, as things get added in here, there's going to be like different dates of passing. As you can see, I kind of put it in order of year, but sometimes they come a little out of order. As you get down here, I think I jumped back. No, okay, they're kind of in. Oh, I must have sorted them by date of passing already. But and there's the one guy from 1992. So if I go, you're going to see like all these different like tabs here. So I have passed in 1992. And what it does here, and this is the cool thing I learned from there, is that you can put what's called an array and then do it based on circumstances. So for this thing, I did it, well, is it equal to 1992? So basically the top array of formulas just takes the header information from here and places it here. And then basically, and I actually started at column 2 because column 1 is the timestamp in which I entered the information. So I wanted to start from here and onward. So basically it says going from name to other aliases, take all that information and apply those to the header. So basically, if we end up changing the data for whatever reason, if there's some additional information that gets added or removed, I think this covers basically 99% of what I've covered so far. But if I end up changing something and adding a new thing in here, it's going to do that. And the cool thing is, another cool thing that it did, which I think this is why Google is better than Microsoft in some ways, because um, like if you notice in the entry form, like other aliases is not over here. It's actually under name because I found that I was entering that second, so it made it better for my entry flow. But it didn't change it here, which is cool because like that would have broke this. Like that would have been like, oh, between the first and second thing, if they moved this over here in response to me doing that, and then obviously like all this other information, so it knows like what the thing was called somehow, and it like maintains that, and that is so cool. Like like Microsoft wishes it could do that, because I've worked with Microsoft products for a lot of my work, and like having to update formulas is a constant problem. Um, so here we have the second row, and this is like the same on. So this array formula is the same on. Ooh, well, uh, I get to copy this over, apparently, because on 1997 it broke. So paste it here. Boom, there. See, it's all there. Um, so the cool thing is that I only enter this one cell of information for each of these tabs. And so like we have form responses BH1, form responses BH2, 1992. So all I got to do is put the year in here and then it'll paste everything. So the important part of the code is here. What year am I looking at? So basically it looks at the responses in column I, which is the date of passing, and then it looks for 1996, right? Um, Now, what I did for column I is I couldn't figure out how to actually pull it from this column. So instead, what I did is I moved over here and added a column that's not in the form called year past, and just basically made a formula here that pulls from the date of passing. It pulls from this, the year in there. So it pulls the first four characters because it's always going to be the first four characters. So it takes that file and what are the first four characters, boom. And now that I have the first four characters separated and I don't have to like do complicated mathematics in this thing in a more complex formula, it basically makes it cleaner and easier to maintain because all I got to do is copy this, put whatever the year of the tab is, and then in back in Flavor Town, right? I am pulling a particular. There's a way you can share information and pull a particular tab. So for every year, I'm going to go in and make one of these, and then basically, we're going to enter this stuff into the form, and then basically what that's going to do is it's going to add a new row to this database here. So let's say that this is the like I entered like I just enter this thing. It'll automatically like this year of passing is 2014. So what it'll do is it'll automatically so I'll have a one tab for each year pre-created. It'll automatically come into here, add that row to the bottom of here, and then this reference will automatically pull that thing. So as I add things to the form, I don't have to touch anything. And the really cool thing that I'm so glad it actually functions because I didn't know if it was going to, is when we go back to the when we go back to here, when I added this, I didn't know that I wasn't gonna have to like update this because every time like this is a formula that's based off of what was entered, and I didn't know if like when somebody enters a new line if it was just going to stop here, like it was just going to stop here and then I would have to like pull this formula down to whatever new data came in to basically calculate that, but it does it automatically, which is so freaking cool. Like like it's so freaking cool. Like I don't have to like update the year thing in this. It'll just do it automatically and then it will pass that data along to whichever tab there, and this there will be one article for each tab, and it'll pull automatically and it'll put it on Flera, and then people can see like the names, and as it dynamically changes as data is added or heaven forbid removed for whatever reason, if like somehow a false bit of data gets in there and like we clean it out, like it's so cool. Like I'm sorry, it's just like it's like this is what I work a lot of hours for, is to do stuff like this. And it's cool to use like stuff that I used at work and use that skill in my personal life and things like that. I think that's one of the coolest things that can happen. Because it's like this is all from experience. It's like sorting this by year. That's from experience of me having to sort data by that. Obviously I've done Excel work, so I know like how to use that kind of stuff to make somewhat dynamic things. But this is one of the cooler systems I made, and I'm happy for it. Um, but it's like someone might say, "Well, I made things cooler." Good for you. You can help out. But everyone has like that's the whole joy of cooking or joy of like creating, right? Anyways, enough of that. I'm really happy with this, and I hope that happiness is infectious. So this is a really good thing and a really good tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter one. It's the last thing in this video. I'm going to sort of go through the process of doing this. Number one, I'm going to use this for sharing with other people who are probably going to help, because I think I need help doing this, because there's the longer that I take doing this, the more data could get added while I'm doing it. Obviously, I can work with the person who's creating this thing to make sure that if they're updating this, that while I'm doing this, that I can add those people to the thing afterwards. Because unfortunately, like this is a messy data management project, right? This is a messy data management project. It is a data is coming in for multiple years at a time. It's not just linear from 1 to B, because life is not that clean where you're learning of a person's passing. One of the most interesting stories I think so far of me doing this was I learned of a furry who passed during 9/11, and in this place, we can actually probably go to it. It was pretty close to the end, so I think it was like over here. Yeah, so that I know where things are too. That's why it helps. Also, an interesting. I don't think this is their fursona, and I don't know if they just like I think they should change it to this because or a picture. There's a picture available of this person on Wikifur because I think they accidentally copied the photo from here. As I said, there's glitches. He's gonna know. He's probably gonna be like, Rue, come on, you're breaking the magic. But that being said, I learned about this person, and actually, I was able to get a little bit more information from the thing. Um, Apparently, this was the only fur who passed on 9/11. Because when I saw September 11, 2001, I'm like, oh wow, that's did they actually pass during the attack, or was it like they passed on the same day and it just happens to be a coincidence? But no. Apparently, there's a whole wiki for article on this person, and it describes how like the local New York City furs were kind of like getting a name list together and trying to check in on people to make sure they were okay. And the screenshot that was taken for Wikifur had two people that were marked as like passed on and like, but eventually one of the two that were marked as passed on was actually found to be okay. So it was just this one person. Unfortunately, we don't know much about their persona. We know that they were um, sort of a very important vice president of like some sort of management thing, and apparently like unfortunately this is like where it goes into like how do we know that they were furry. Well, it's like the locals at the time were just collecting information about like the furries they knew in the local area. So the fact that this person's name was on that list kind of signifies like I don't see any, nefariousness going on there or anything like that. But I don't think this person was out as a furry before this unfortunate tragedy. They weren't publicly a furry. They were kind of like one of those private furries. Um, so that was an interesting like thing that I'd found out. And so I did add a little bit more information from the wiki for it. And not but was tasteful in that like because usually like gravestones, I think this is sort of a combination of a gravestone slash obit. Usually gravestones don't say how somebody passed, um, so you have to like be careful about that because like it's like not like they don't like no tombstone goes past of cancer or past of like heart attack or past of like that. Usually gravestones have like their name, their date of birth, and maybe like a little phrase. Um, they usually don't have a lot of words on them, but this is sort of a mixture of that and an obit because a lot of these things do have like a lot of text about their life. So, like, I think I put like what they work, like what they did as their job, which is available, publicly available information, because a lot of things in this like space have that information. But this is the only one I did that with. Everything else I kind of just went through and just copied what was here. Um, because like that's the only information that's available. But that one was interesting, and I thought it was like I'm going to share a little bit more, so I added that to the spreadsheet. That's a little bit different. If this like and this comes down to it also acts as a backup because like if something Lord forbid happened to the ofrenda, to its world, like its Unity code, somebody like the Unity code gets broken or whatever, like this allows a backup thing. So it also allows accessibility, right? It allows it to be accessible to more furries who may not have access to that. It promotes Furry Ofrenda outside of the VR space. It helps promote Flera inside the VR space. Um, and it creates a what I think is a new tool that we have the technology now to utilize in a more powerful way to make it simple for the community to contribute, but complicated enough where that information that is provided can be given out dynamically. All the people who need to do this is basically submit a form. So like if Husky is like, I'm sure every time the ofrenda receives like, hey, can I put in this thing? I don't know if they have their own form or not. I would hope they do. But if they don't, then they don't have to describe what they need every time or copy paste what they need every time and tell this person's like, here's what information we need for this passing. You could just send them to the form. They can enter the form. You can read the results of the form and then enter it into your own form again, and then have that like in quote unquote cleaned up, and then basically create the use that information to go into the Unity thing. I don't know how the Unity thing it works because that's on their side. I don't have access to that. I'm just using what's publicly available here and putting it into a spreadsheet currently to collect all the information. and then basically work together with them in the future to kind of do that. That's the plan. Like it's their place though. At the end of the day, it's important that like they continue to run this space and feel comfortable running the space, and that they don't get overwhelmed. So I'm trying to make it so that this is as little overwhelming for them as possible, and not overwhelming to them. Because me creating all the stuff in the background with like the formatting and the things like that, like that's me nerding, right? Like, but it makes sense, and it makes sense to enter the form and stuff like that. And that's why having the two, my idea of the two forms, the form that the average person uses, and the form that the main Ofrenda people use to take that information and re-enter it a second time to make sure that it's cleaned up. Like if somebody makes a typo somewhere in the main form, it doesn't automatically get updated to the database. That basically that second layer acts as a protection, and b a means of um, editing and making sure things are fine. That being said, let's end with we're gonna end this here with one last thing, and I'm gonna enter one thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go to the second page, and I'm gonna go to the very first person here, Baltro, Slisco. So Balto Slisco is going to be my example, and it's in Spanish. Okay. I don't. Okay, so I'm gonna. I'll do that. Let me. All right. I'll do is I'll re-enter the thing. I'll enter that. The trick is like, that's that's tricky. Like I need to like basically learn a bunch of alt keys, and I can enter it, and that's fine. The problem is like I have to type it by hand because there's no way to copy paste. So I can't like copy paste that. So basically, what I would need to do is I would need to enter that information, and then basically select all the vowels that need to be changed with accents, and then find like a page that has all those accents, and then copy paste the individual letters. Or I would need to learn all the alt codes. I know one alt code, I think, for the umlaut, because I studied German for a little bit, but I don't have the rest memorized, unfortunately. uh, so I'm not going to be able to type that efficiently. So what I will do is, let me just start here, and I'll go to the next person. I'm sorry, Baltro. Um, you know, do they have a location? Lugar, España, Espana. Is that Spain? I think that's Spain. I'm gonna look it up later, and I'm gonna be sad if I got it wrong. Oh man, this person. Oh man, this person was born the same month I was born. That's the hard part about this stuff. Uh, Person passed away too soon. They passed in 2020 as well, so you always wonder. It's like if it was a pandemic thing, but this is just entering data. What we do is we go to the form. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to change this to this so you can see me entering the thing. So what I'm doing is I'm just reading it off of the thing. Um, so this is one where it has like the alias a little bit. There's Yark Wark, and then it's like basically alias is Ash Yark Foster. So I think it's combinable because Yark Wark is sort of one word, and that's their name, persona name, and they say Ash Yark Foster as the alias. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the rule there where I combine the two. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to make it Ash Yark Wark Foster. So what I'm going to do here is go here to this form, type in Ash Yark Wark, in quotes, and then Foster. So that handled the alias because on the stone it's Ash Yark Foster, and the name is Yarkwark. So I just combined because Yark to me, and this is another sort of rule, is like if somebody has if somebody says John Smith is the name and then their alias is John, I ignore the alias. It's like a lot of people like remove and add parts to a formal name. So I don't think that's what should the alias should be used for. That's more of a personal thing, but I think that I think it tracks just in how people understand things. Um, so persona species is not listed. Even if so, here's the rule: it's like even if there is a animal picture on the stone, I can't make an assessment based on that. And even if their name is so, even if it says like Shadow Fox or something or other, I can't assume that their species is that unless it's listed. Which is why I think a form like this is important when we're handing out things to like furries to enter this kind of stuff into, because then they'll think about, oh yeah, I should add their species, right? I think sometimes like that might have gotten left out because and location might have gotten left out because like people don't think about, oh, where were they from, right? It may be truly unknown, but like that gets left out sometimes. This one we do not have a well. This is an interesting like thing again, unfortunately for the poor guy who's running this dang thing. He's working his arse off. Um, This is fine though. They do have a date of birth on here. They might have found out about it later, but the main name tag on the left does not have that information. But we do have that information. So the date of birth is 1985. May is 05, and then 21 for the date. The date of passing is um, 2020, October 17th. So 10/17, and then the description. Um, So, safe for work only artist. I will say an interesting little tidbit is that like artist is a major a lot of these stones have artist as the first word. A lot of them. Collect goggles. Fan of Neopets. Aw, I like Neopets too. The coloration of my roux is actually based on a Neopet called the what I called it Derision Zafra. Apparently it's Derigan Zafara, which apparently that's how you pronounce those words, and unfortunately I have called it Derision Zafra for so long that I have constantly had that in my mouth. Alright, Pokemon on hiatus. Atmon is life. I don't know what some of this means, but that's okay. I'm just copying the words that are on the page. Like, what does Pokemon on hiatus mean? Like, they liked Pokemon, but they didn't at the end? Like, they became an X fan or something? So that's it. I entered the one. And obviously, if I wasn't talking during that and just entering it, like, I could do, like, as I said, so I did 108 um, in 4 hours. So like if you divide that like by the amount of minutes, you can see like get an actual like how long each of these takes. Obviously, some of them are quick. Some of them it's like, oh, there's not a lot of information. Okay, that's good. I don't have to like I could just put none in the description. Year, death, enter thing. Cool. Like move forward. Some of them are really long. So like they have like a 3 paragraph thing. So the amount of time it takes can vary. Particularly the description is the longest part. But that's basically it. And then I would enter that, and then as I said, it automatically will update to that, so we can see this in real time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and that this part of the video is going to be like if I'm having people help me, like this is going to be the part that I see, and then you just hit submit. I'm going to go here for a second and hit submit because I think it just pushes me. Oh no, it just says your response has been recorded. Okay. I was just making sure just in case it doesn't. And then I can click submit another response, and then it goes back to the main page, and then I would enter number 2, and etc. etc. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to here, and I didn't even have to refresh the page. That's cool. That's cute. So I'm going to click back on enter here, so you can see Ash York Worcester is here. You can see the date time stamp in which I entered this information. Unknown, 1985, passed in 2020, 10/17, and that. So I do have a problem here, and that is I do not have a 2020 year in here. So 2024 is the last one. So what I can do is I can do this. I can copy and duplicate, And what that's going to do is it's going to create a new guy. And I'm going to remove the copy of and change 2014 to 2020. So now it's past 2020. And all I need to do is change this 2014 to 2020, and boom, there he is. And then as I go through this thing, it's going to just add to this, and then I can post this, embed this spreadsheet into a 2020 version of this. Because basically, I'll just copy what's here, except for I'll have it called Dynamic Memorial 2020, and basically that. So it's basically it's a new way of maintaining information, other than a wiki, other than like things. It's actually using a news site in order to keep dynamic information and dynamic information maintenance. Now, this is where it comes into, it takes a community, because obviously, the people maintaining the ofrenda and the people maintaining these things will only be around for so long. So having this sort of information on how these things work and how you maintain these kind of things is an important aspect of life, and it's an important aspect of community. Um, I recently played a game called Tales Noir Preludes, and one of the things the uncle says to the daughter is like, "You've made your goal, but try to find something that is quote unquote infinite. Try to find something that requires maintenance that doesn't have a beginning nor an end. Because being aspirational is fine, you'll reach a goal, but you'll find something eventually in which you can help maintain something, even if it gives some purpose to your life and things like that." And um, like sometimes people have the tendency to start projects and lose interest in continuing them. The spirit for maintaining it dies in their heart, but it may inspire others to be ready to take the mantle if they need to. And important. That's the thing that death sort of reminds us as an important thing. So basically, I would just go around. So basically, how I mark this and how I would do this is, how do I keep track of what ones I've done so far? Well, basically, I'm just gonna go till I reach this podium again, right? This podium is only here at the spawn point, so like it's not on all 4 points. So basically, I'll remember like that this is the guy that I started with. I'll I'll certainly remember that I'm gonna end on this particular one on the guy whose thing is entirely in Spanish or Portuguese. I'm Conferver 2021. So Mexican maybe? España might be Mexico because Conferver is in Mexico. Um, yeah, so yeah, the internet's going to correct me, and I've already corrected myself. It's Mexico. Like Conferver, I think Conferver. I'm 99.9% Conferver is in Mexico. But leaving it in Spanish is also cool. Like it's like it's gonna be hard for my Yankee fingers to like do this, but like, and it's gonna take me a little longer to type, and I'm gonna have to like get the you know update the texts to things. Maybe maybe the computers are smart enough now. If I start typing in Spanish, it's gonna automatically add the accents. That would be cool, but unfortunately, like autofill is, again, like technology, these tech companies are based in US and they sometimes make things, but maybe I'm not cultured enough, and maybe there is autocomplete and auto fixings and updates for Spanish words and things like that with accent characters. I hope so. That'd make that a lot easier. But as I said, I'll certainly remember that that's the last one I have to enter for this row. And basically, I'd go around here, and it would take about 2 hours, and then I'd be back here, and then I'd have another 50 or so entries. Um, so if I have like 50 or so entries, like 54 entries per row, so about one a minute. No, one. No, one every. No, two a minute. I can enter two a minute because I do it in two. I can enter. No, one every 2 minutes. Yeah, 54. So 54 is, if it was one a minute. So yeah, it would be about one every 2 minutes, I guess, is the average. Um, which would make sense. I like make sure I scroll and double check things a little bit before that, and then might have to take like a break or something. So like, yeah, I mean that's one every 2 minutes. This obviously took me a lot longer because like that. But anyways, that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this idea of how the sausage is made and how these things like, so that you can apply them to your own projects or thoughts as well. Thank you for the Furry Ofrenda for existing. It's a very important thing in the community. Obviously, I'm going to be spending some time and helping. Hopefully, others will help me along with this process so we can get this done faster. But like I'm determined. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time. And enjoy your Memorial Day.